What's up, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about how to make a good pour-over coffee, and really just why you should care about good coffee. So there's a lot of benefits to having good coffee that's not just Starbucks. I know most of us probably right away, whenever we think of getting coffee, whenever we're craving it, when we need a good boost of caffeine, the first thing we think of is Starbucks. I think the big problem is economically, environmentally, it's just not as sustainable. So we're going to be talking about why you should care about good coffee, and what you can do to make your own coffee at home and to make it well. So first off, as we get started, I'm just going to talk a little bit about what we got going on here. So we're going to start to the left and we'll just go right here. So first off, we have a scale. This is HARIO brand, HARIO. It's Japanese. It's not super expensive. I think I got the scale for about $30 on Amazon, and it was pretty cheap. Next, we just have a normal mason jar. Nothing special about it, just something to put your coffee in. Next, we have a V60. This is the pour over. This basically is what we'll be using to filter the coffee, filter the water through the coffee. So this is also on Amazon, also made by HARIO, and I think it was only about like 40-50 bucks maybe. So once again, pretty cheap, just a few cups of coffee. Moving on down, we've got a hand grinder. This is specifically a burr grinder. This is also made by HARIO, as you can see, and it's also pretty cheap. I think I got it for like 18 bucks on Amazon, but it comes apart. This is where the coffee goes at the bottom after it's already ground. This top part grinds it, and it's great because it breaks down. I use it for traveling a lot, so it comes with a little handle that you can put on the top, and you put your coffee in the top. So that is the grinder that I use. Moving on down, we've got V60 filters. These are just normal paper filters. They end up, when you open them up, they end up looking like shit. So there's that. So that's pretty much everything we've got here in this little section. Moving on down, we've got coffee. This is blue bottle coffee. This is what I really love to use whenever I'm making coffee. In my humble opinion, I would say this is the standard, if you will, for coffee. But it's really helpful if you have a couple of friends who also want good coffee. You can go in on a monthly subscription, and that'll get you some really good. It'll be cheaper basically than what you buy. So, and then moving on down, we've got a kettle here, a gooseneck kettle. Walmart, you can buy just a normal electric kettle for like 20 bucks. But this is gooseneck kettle, and we'll see later why it's helpful to have this and not just a normal electric kettle. The spout here helps you kind of control where your water goes. So I've boiled some water in this stove here, and we have transferred it to this kettle, so it's pretty hot still. So we're just going to get into just the way to make some good pour over coffee in a V60. The first thing you want to do after your water's heated up, you want to make sure that's at about 195 degrees Fahrenheit. It's not quite boiling, it boils at like 205. So 195 kind of keeps it a little bit cooler. If it's too hot, if it's right at boiling about 205, it's going to make the coffee taste a little bit more bitter, and it's not going to be as nice. So you want to make sure your coffee's hot, and after that you will make sure that your coffee is ground. So right now we're going to measure out our beans, and measure out how much coffee we're going to use. Basically, I'm going to go ahead and tear the scale to kind of cancel it out, make it go to 0, and then we're going to measure out 21 grams of coffee. So now that we've got all of our coffee in the grinder, this is the fun part. We're going to grind it. Put this back on the scale. All right, looks like our coffee is done. This is all of the coffee that we're going to be using. As you can see, it's not too coarse. It's not too fine. It looks about kosher salt. So yeah, now that the coffee is ground and our water's hot, now we can actually get down to making the coffee. So you'll want to take one of your filters and fold it along the seam. And this next step, what we're going to do now is we're going to take our hot water and we're going to rinse it. We're going to rinse the filter. So this gets any paper taste out of the filter, but it also kind of preheats your vessel, which is the jar, and then it preheats the V60 as well. So now that we have rinsed the filter, the hot water's in this bottom part now. So now you can just, if you're at home, you can rinse it down. You can throw it in the sink, but we're outside in the wilderness, so we're just gonna give it a good toss. Water's in the glass. So now that we've done that, we are going to tare the scale. And now we're going to take our coffee grounds, we'll unscrew the top, and we'll put it in the V60. Okay, so after the coffee's in the top, I usually like to let it settle a little bit, shake it so that it's even. So that means that it's not going to be off to one side. You really want it even pour. So once again, this is 24 grams, so we'll go ahead and tare the scale. Now is the fun part. So what we're going to do first is we're going to do a bloom, and that basically there's basically carbon dioxide inside the bean, and so whenever you grind it up, it starts to kind of come out a little bit, and it starts to release more of that CO2. So it also releases CO2 really fast whenever you put hot water on it. So that's, we're going to see a little bit of bubbles. So it's just going to be a 30-second bloom. We're just going to do enough water to get all of the grounds wet. So we're going to go ahead and start our timer and start doing a little bit of a spiraling motion on that. And now 30 seconds. So we're going to go ahead and pour some more water in here. And on this second pour, we'll also do a spiraling motion like we did last time, but it's going to be, we'll stop at 200 grams of water. Going. And right about there. So that's 202 grams. So that was our first real pour after the bloom. So we're going to let that go through. And then at a minute 30, we will do our last pour to get up to 360 grams. So there is something called the coffee ratio, coffee to water ratio, and it's really important whenever you're trying to control how bitter or how like sour your coffee tastes. We're at a minute 20, and we're going to go ahead and start this last pour. A little bit. Look at that, 362 grams. So now we are done with the kettle, and so we're going to start waiting for this coffee to finish up. And then after that, we'll be done. So a little bit more about the ratio. The coffee to water ratio is used to measure how much coffee versus water you have. It's pretty self-explanatory. But right now we're using a 16:1 coffee water ratio. And so we have 21 grams of coffee and 360 grams of water. So that means if you have a darker roast and you want to water down that coffee a little bit more, that'll kind of dilute that really heavy, dark taste. You can add a little bit more water. So right now we're doing a 16:1 ratio, and you could probably do like an 18:1. So we're right at 3 minutes. So at 3 minutes, whenever you hit the 3-minute mark, your coffee is done. And so at 3 minutes, you will take the V60 away from the mug, and you will toss the filter in the coffee. You can throw it in the trash, but this is all biodegradable, so I'm just going to toss it over here in this pond. Let's go. Maybe the fish wants to fish happy. It's all biodegradable, eco-friendly. So it's important to make your own coffee at home because you save money. You save money because, let's say you've got a Keurig at home. You go to Walmart and you get like a big 36 pack of those K-Cups. That'll probably run you like 15 bucks. You can spend $10 or $15 on an entire bag of coffee, and it's going to be about the same amount of servings. I get about a month per 12-ounce bag of coffee. If you're using a K-Cup, it's already ground. It's not really going to be fresh. Basically, the flavors are just not going to be as good. So not only do you have a plastic-filled taste, but it's also just not great for the environment. After you throw that away, the foil's attached to it, so it's hard to recycle, and then it's just going to sit in the landfill forever. with this, a lot of times, so this is a biodegradable bag. A lot of times you can just get a paper bag for your coffee. So it's just more environmentally friendly. So that's a quick overview of why it's better, cheaper, and just more environmentally sustainable to make your own coffee at home. I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching.